Okay, hello and welcome to this RAC Magazine live webinar on press fit systems in the cooling sector. I'm RAC Magazine editor Neil Merrett, and our event today is sponsored by Conex Bänninger, and we're going to be looking at the technical considerations of going to flame-free work in cooling applications and a broader discussion of what press fit technologies can mean for the sector. So it's convenient that Conex are joining us as they're a specialist in these systems. And we're glad to say we have several experts from the company today who are going to be talking me through it and helping with some of the questions I have and you have yourselves as well. So we've got Ged Grimes, who's the UK and Ireland Business Unit Director for the company. Hoping I've got this right now on my list. And Tom Mason, who's the Conex's marketing manager in the UK and Ireland as well, and Mike Lucken, who's the ACR sales manager for the company as well. So across all that board, and we've got quite a good lot of expertise to discuss about today. So our first session for those joining us is we're going to talk about some of the broader implications of what it would mean to move away from brazing processes in cooling systems. This is also a chance for you to put some questions to our panel. If you can do, we've got the Q&A section for those perhaps from new Zoom in a while or unfamiliar. There should be a Q&A tab at the bottom, and this allows you just to put questions throughout. I'll be putting a few to the panel as well, but in any cases, I think we're welcoming feedback, observations, or questions as well. After this first session, we're going to be having a case study as well to demonstrate some of the applications for press fit, and we'll also be having a technical workshop later on, and that will be an opportunity as well for more project-specific questions. And I think the guys are up for being certainly grilled a bit as well, so for you to put some questions to them about considerations for when you're planning your own work. But I think after rabbiting on, I will move on to our panel. I thought it'd be a good start for them to introduce themselves personally, and if we could perhaps talk a little bit about the company and its products as well.
Okay, so thanks, Neil. So a little bit about the business there. So you see the opening line is 110 years plus of innovation. Conex Bänninger is one of the world's leading manufacturers of plumbing, heating, fitting and valves, producing quality designed and engineers through our European factories. And then from there, we then distribute globally around the world for the commercial, the domestic and the industrial applications. Yeah. So just a little bit about the business, really. Since 1909 now, we've produced more than 24 billion fittings, which have gone into the used by customers across the plumbing, heating and the ACR and valve sector as well. So offering really an extensive range of obviously copper, carbon, brass and bronze and stainless steel components, and then really leading into obviously the moving towards the modern technology that we produce is our B-Press fit system, our B-Sonic, which is a copper push fit fitting, and then our award-winning, which we'll concentrate a bit more on today, our B-Maxi Pro design, which has really revolutionised how fittings are used within the air conditioning and refrigeration market. Okay.
Brilliant, thanks there, guys. I don't know if it's all right to start. I was going to have a few questions for you just to put to the panel, I guess, building on that. First question, I know we have, there was questions about some slides coming in. We will be having a presentation later with some details, and I know there'll be access to the company will be able to provide, I think probably, I'll speak to you after, but be able to provide those for people on the case study. A bit more about that. But to start, you all, and while I've got you here this morning, I was going to ask, starting point, just as a manufacturer and as a provider of these solutions, then, what have been some of sort of the main cooling applications where you're already seeing press fit adopted? And I wanted to ask, really from your technical view, that are there any areas where there's been more reluctance for adoption, or where these systems seem to be quite well suited? I know it's going to be one of the broader things, but I thought we'd start just about an introduction on what it means to be using press fit in cooling sector.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Yeah, we're seeing B-Maxi Pro fittings using all kinds of refrigeration and AC applications. So it could be anything from schools, hospitals, listed buildings, shopping centres. We see them in data centres, even on boats and ships. There hasn't been any particular reluctance from any particular areas, but we are seeing them mostly used on AC installations. And this is particularly on projects where hot works are a problem. It's probably due to a few factors. One of them is that the AC is often fitted in occupied buildings, so fire alarms, evacuation, etc., are going to be an issue there. But also, you know, if you're doing an AC, say a VRF system, what you've got there is a lot of long pipe runs using, you know, probably using straight copper. You need and you need a lot of joints. And what comes into play there is there's huge time saving factors over brazing with breast. So that you know, that's what we're seeing in that sort of area.
Brilliant. I mean, is that in a sense, you know, when you're going out and sort of talking to clients, I guess, is it the time saving that's kind of one of the main arguments here? I mean, hot works obviously is a huge workshop later, but I know hot works obviously will be quite a big consideration for some there. But I was wondering if that's really, we're talking about sort of that convenience install and trying to make that work.
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I've been working for the company for 5.5 years now, which is pretty much most of the time we've had this product out. And in the early days, I think most of the contractors that I spoke to, the installers, probably initially came onto the idea because of hot works issues. But when I was following up a few weeks later after people had taken up the system, usually they wanted to talk about was the time saving factors. And I think more and more often now, you're getting a mix of people coming to us for these, you know, for this product, for advice and training, and some of it is still about hot works, obviously, but an awful lot of it is about time saving now.
Brilliant. So I guess that ties into some of those bigger challenges we're sort of seeing around costs and sort of efficiency in the wider.
Well, some of it is just purely. I've had a couple of people say to me they've you know been able to complete projects completely in house without having to get subcontractors in, that sort of thing, because you know labour shortages these days is obviously a big thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got on my list of questions, and it's always a stupid one, but it helps me. And I think, you know, I realise we've talked about here sort of flame free and press fit in this there. I mean, I guess from as a company, you know, how would you? I guess perhaps a question I should have started with, but we'll go with is really just describing what we mean by press fit technologies in a system. I think, you know, actually, I'm sure most will be familiar here, but I guess, you know, as a specialist in it yourself, you know, what would be your easy summary of what we're talking about? I realise for some who perhaps are a bit more unfamiliar.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a little bit later on, we're going to do a presentation with some slides on it. But essentially, press fit technology, we use a fitting which in essence looks like any copper fitting would, except in a bead on either end there's an O-ring embedded. And then we use a press tool with a jaw that's formed around that to press and compress the O-ring around the pipe, which is what gives you the seal. You know, at the same time also deforming the pipe slightly so you grip onto it. As I say, later on in this discussion, we'll go through some slides, so we'll have some visuals of that, if you like.
Brilliant. Always useful, but I realised, yeah, I thought I've got you here. You know,
So it's a handheld battery operated tool at the end of the day. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now I guess coming back to, I know today we're going to talk really about the cooling sector, which convenient being it's RAC Magazine as well. But you know, I guess talking about the experience that you've had as a company with this there. I mean, as opposed to when we're using press fit technologies for heating or hot water systems, I was wondering how these applications or what changes at all there are with regards to when you're working on refrigeration and cooling. I mean, in the sense of the piping there, is it still more or less the same experience that someone might have already had or might have with hot water systems, or does it change somewhat in terms of when we're looking at ACR applications in particular?
No, so essentially the process and the benefits are exactly the same. Hot works, time saving. Obviously, the only difference being is the installer needs to test the pipe work in accordance with the you know the F-gas regulations that they would normally work to. But
yes.
Yeah, the benefits and process are the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the question I know when we were discussing some of the themes there is obviously in terms of the pushing for the time saving of that. There, obviously, this would be looking at moving away from flame-free work on projects. I guess in a sense there, some there might be some queries about, is this in some way sort of de-skilling the sector? With regards to sort of the critical requirement when it comes to brazing. I mean, I guess, in a sense, how do you respond? Is that clinging on to something, in terms of, I guess, how with your experience of the sector as well, what does that mean in the sense of de-skilling? Is that something that thinks about, or is that really that we're talking innovation here and perhaps looking beyond certain ways of doing that?
With all new innovation and technology that we use in all areas of our lives, you could accuse that of de-skilling, isn't it? Cars, computers, etc. Who has the skills to repair their own car anymore? Who understands how their mobile phone works, etc. So, it could be the same as everything, but they make our lives easier, don't they? At the end of the day, so press fitting or pressing, I would say that's a different skill. It's been brought into the industry to to help with issues such as hot works and time pressures, etc. The training is absolutely essential. So to do the training, anything you've got to train on is a skill, and you have to do that to make sure the joints are made correctly, because it isn't just a case of just slap them together and press it. City Guilds still teach brazing to the apprentices, to the installers. So they're still you still need to know how to use braze, because there could be circumstances where it's not possible to press. If you had to get into a really tight space to do a compressor change or something like that, then you might still need to get the braze torch out in certain circumstances where you've got the time. So yeah, it wouldn't be any different from any new technology.
That's interesting, and in that sense, you said having a skill set. I guess looking at systems, it's a lot we have as a magazine on when we talk about project specific, needs and understanding the needs of a building. So I guess in that sense, it's being aware of sort of the best solutions and where you can use these sort of tools or these approaches.
Yeah,
flame free and brazing is needed there. I mean, I guess talking on that training side as well. I mean, how does that play into for if people are considering this or looking at it? What sort of training then is there with regards to using the tool, or considerations in that sense to make sure that the skills are there, but also the know-how about sort of getting the most of the press fit systems out there.
Yeah, exactly. So the training that we do, and we spend a lot of time on this. So we do it both in person with visits to companies and site visits, to train people that are taking up the system. We also go into the refrigeration and air conditioning City and Guilds courses at a number of colleges and train there. But what we've also got on at the moment is we have an online training as well. So for people that maybe haven't got the time or need it immediately or want to do it out of hours, there's we provide them with a link to our own system, and they can train online there. And at that point, we offer them an extended warranty and even a certificate. So we are getting an increasing amount of people that are calling us who and saying, "Oh, we need to use this process, but the site we're working on needs to see the certification." So we do have that. And what the training is all about at the end of the day is to make sure that people understand where they can and can't use it, the importance of the how to store the fittings, but also how to prepare the tube and mark the pipe, and how the importance of pressing once, all that sort of thing. So because it is a simple process, but there's a few steps you've got to follow, if you see what I mean. You are making an O-ring seal on the outside of a piece of pipe, so prep is really important.
Neil, I think what's most important is that we're taking a skilled labour force, and we're upskilling them with new technology, new products. So we're working with obviously people who are already skilled in the industry, and through our invention or innovation of new products, we're now upskilling them to be in line with the demands of the ever-changing market. And I think that's an important point to get across.
Yeah, I understand. It's, I mean, as you said, it's interesting about the certificates as well. You know, these days with showing workings and having that confidence there. I mean, that was, I think, I was going to build up on that one in the sense of, you know, looking at removing the need for hot works permits on projects in the sense, you know, what do you have to do with regards to, I guess, to, we talked, I think this builds on that, about ensuring confidence. But I suppose guaranteeing a similar level of effectiveness and safety when using this there. And I guess in part of that, you know, regulations, what, you know, has there been, what sort of interactions has that been, you know, regulations wise? I suppose, you know, we mentioned F-gas as well, which, you know, and some of the regulations wise, what does it mean in terms of I guess compliance in that sense there, but also, yeah, kind of the considerations of what do you have to do with that confidence? And it, you know, is that coming a bit from the company as well? Is there something that can be done from contractors or people on the ground as well?
Well, as Ged was saying, the idea of this is, you know, using press is not a solution for getting, you know, the work done by unskilled labour. These you know, refrigeration air conditioning systems should only be worked on by suitably qualified people in all areas. I mean, you know, we're just addressing one point, which is, you know, joining the two pieces of pipe, yeah. And at the end of the day, press fittings are a mechanical joint. Mechanical joints are not new. Flare fittings are a mechanical joint, yeah, and they come with their associated problems as well. If you look at air conditioning systems, when you join them to the pipework, they come with a flare connection, which we do have an adapter for. But at the end of the day, if BMAXI Pro fittings are used in accordance with instructions, that they are designed and they will provide a permanent leak-free joint. So you shouldn't get any of the associated problems.
Brilliant. So that factors in. Appreciate that. Appreciate the answer on that one there. I mean, I know we're going to be hearing questions from the audience today, and we've got a technical workshop coming up, which is going to look a bit more. We took some of those issues and considerations when moving to press fit. I guess I was going to ask what the most common issues you sort of hear when providing your projects in the RAC sector, and how I guess are you able to adapt, and or, you know, have you adapted with regards to offering the solutions when it comes to cooling applications, if at all? I know we've talked about some of the basic considerations kind of apply across sort of skills and systems you're using. But as we're here talking about cooling there, I was going to ask kind of, yeah, what's kind of been some of the main feedback, I guess, some of the main issues, and again that idea of how you I guess adapt, or particularly with something like the BMAXI Pro, what makes that so kind of well engineered for cooling applications there?
Yeah, so I suppose the most common question, objection, worry, if you like, for anyone new to taking up anything new in this industry, or certainly, you know, mechanical joint, is will that fitting fail? In other words, will it leak? You've got to work to F-gas regulations, and you're working under high pressures, yeah? So, you know, people worry, will that leak? Will that fail? Will it come off? And, you know, the way that we address that, part of the training is also a demonstration at the end of the day. So we demonstrate all the reasons why that won't. So you've got a product here that was 7 years in development before it went out on the market, yeah? We've had it on the market now for what, 6-7 years, and we have literally sold millions of fittings globally, yeah. And you know, so we're very confident with it. We give it a 10-year guarantee for anyone that's trained. The fittings are designed with a minimum life expectancy of 25 years. So we do accelerated life cycle tests on the O-rings, which we achieve by oven aging. You know, so we can evidence the rigorous testing and approvals for these fittings, and you know, there's a list as long as your arm, with all the things you'd expect us to do with a fitting. So at the end of the day, you know, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but these are, I mean, they're designed for maximum operating pressure of 48 bar. They're tested to 144 bar, which is 3 times that 48. If we do burst tests, which we do on fittings, the pipe will fail and not the fitting. So the fitting is stronger than the pipe. there's a few reasons for that. I mean, it's pressed in very solidly. There's and you'll see this when I do the slide, but there's a hook on the like a little ring in the inside of the fitting, and that digs into the pipework, and it actually, you know, in an overpressure situation, as the tube expands and the joint tries to pull apart, that digs in and actually makes that joint stronger the higher the pressure. So that's how we alleviate concerns of failure, by just evidencing the testing and the and whatnot. Some people are concerned about with new things about availability. You know, do I invest in this and I can't get it? And we've literally just got this in. It's available from every refrigeration and air conditioning wholesaler across the UK. So there's we've ensured there's really good stocks held with our wholesale partners. So you shouldn't have any problems getting hold of it.
Excellent. It's always a good one to lead in on that one there.
Yeah,
I mean, about the getting the good points in Mike on that one. But I mean, I'm just interested, you know, mentioning about the 6 or 7 years. Is that the B Max Pro Plus that's been 6 or 7 years?
Yeah, so we've had that. We launched that into the market in 2016, initially 2017 in the UK. It was in development for a good number of years before we put it on the market. 7 years.
I mean, as a sort of broad catch-all question, but I was wondering, you know, during that time, I guess, how are you seeing the market changing in terms of sort of demand, or the type of perhaps assistance, or the type of requests you're getting from companies? I wonder if you're seeing kind of a market change, whether it's in sort of awareness of PressFit, or whether it's been fairly consistent in the time you've sort of been providing.
So it's grown year on year, yeah, and in some years considerably. We didn't even see a drop off during the 2 years that we had of COVID. It just carried on growing the amount of fittings that we're selling in the UK. I think one of the big ways the market has changed is in the early days, I used to spend all my time convincing installers to take up the system and convincing wholesalers to stock it on the shelves. What I have now is probably more the other way round, is that installers are coming to me saying, "Oh, we want to take this up. Can you go through it? Can you demonstrate it? Can you train?" So you know, I think the big thing is that we've got the word out there. The message is there. I would like to think that everybody that hasn't taken it up so far has heard of it and are probably waiting for the opportunity to to use it or to switch to that technology. I think that's been one of the big changes. The other thing is, I think feedback I get from the market is that hot works are becoming increasingly difficult to obtain. So more and more the kind of sites where it's obvious early on it was all about airports, London Underground, hospitals, that sort of thing, data centers. But now then you go into listed buildings. But what you're getting now is pretty much people are just saying to me, "Oh, the building's occupied, it's a hotel," or we're doing work in a supermarket, so that's open. So we don't have hot works. But also again, pressures, time pressure, especially with shortages of skilled labour. I think that becomes more prevalent as well, and people are looking for time savings. They're the kind of conversations I'm having with people out there in the market.
Neil, just to bolster what Mike said there, not only in the UK, but if we look at in Europe and also America and Australia now, the fitting and obviously the design of the fitting, we've launched obviously from 2017, so a little bit before that. It's really accelerated massively. So when Mike's out there talking, this is not just something that we've aimed and obviously designed for the UK. This is something for the global market. And when we talk about a couple of the case studies later, Tom will cover the case study that we've got one in Italy, but we're getting immense growth now across like the likes of America, Australia, and through Europe, which makes obviously the conversation a lot easier when we're talking to installers in the UK about how this product has been accepted. And now it's growing and growing and growing as we move forward across the year and obviously the generation. So
it's a sort of argument here that you are seeing those kind of that changing market perceptions, understanding it sounds in a sense in the UK obviously, but globally as well on that one there.
It's one of those things you're not having you're not having to push this or promote this as new technology so much anymore. You know, there's always, you know, it was like, you know, when mobile phones became prevalent, there was always the, you know, there was some people took it up immediately and some people hung on, but you got to a certain point where you know, people just said, oh, I can see the benefits all this ready, I'm going to buy one. And I think we're getting like that, you know, with this now.
I mean, I guess I suppose it builds on quite well. I mean, I was going to ask, as a company, kind of indeed with regards to the wider press fit sector in the main, I guess what would be the main message for the audience that we've got here today, that you'd have sort of about the industry, or about where they can get started, or what they might want to consider when it comes to obviously technologies, but press fit as a whole and kind of its use for, as we talked about, the cooling sector.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, as a company, we're committed to developing innovative pipe joint solutions for the industries we work with. Yeah, and BMaxi Pro press fittings are proven, time-efficient, and cost-saving alternative to brazing for refrigeration AC stations, and they you know, at the end of the day, they offer a solution around hot works, providing, you know, a guaranteed permanent leak-free and clean joint. I would say to anybody who's seen this and thinking about it, or you know, has these you know, issues with hot works or needs time saving, is to contact us at Conex Bänninger and organise a demonstration or training for their team before making a decision. You know, it's free to do it, and you know, we can come and visit in person, or using the technologies available to us now, we can do it online via Zoom or Teams. It's not a problem.
That's interesting.
Yeah, certainly, I would. You know, I think it would. You know, answers a lot of questions if you have somebody come in and do the demo.
Yeah.
And the demonstration and training are essentially the same thing at the end of the day. It covers all the same subjects.
Gives you a good background in using the tech. I mean, I know we're going to be delving a bit more into that during the technical workshop that we got anyway, and a bit more of those processes. And I know we'll also have time for questions to people. I think particularly, you know, if people have anything project specific, or if there's any queries they wanted to put, I know the workshop's going to be good opportunity for that. So they'll be able to put those in the Q&As. But thank you. I think that's brought us probably up to the end of our first panel there. So thank you, Mike, and Ged as well. I know Tom's going to be joining us in a second. But so we're going to be coming back shortly for a technical workshop. But we're going to be happy to discuss those. And please feel free to post the questions at the bottom of the screen as you go. But in the meantime, I'm pleased to say, I believe we've got Tom Mason. We're going to have a quick sort of case study, talk a bit more about the practicalities of using this, and some examples of the work that Conex Bänninger itself has been involved in. So Tom, if all right, I'll pass on to yourself.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so as you mentioned, Neil, we're going to cover off a few things just before I share my screen. Do a short company overview, a bit about BMaxi Pro, including the USPs, where it can be used, and also kind of like the technical parameters as well. And then we'll finish off with 3 case study examples, one from Italy, one from South Africa, and one finally from the UK, just to kind of show our broadness in terms of where this product has been used and the different application types as well. So I'll just quickly share my screen, and I'll let Ged do a short...
I've done that.
Okay, so straight to Mike then. Can you see that, Neil?
We can, yeah, that's looking great, Tom.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll quickly... There we go.
Okay, so probably this part of it will answer, you know, in a bit more depth some of the questions you'd asked me earlier on, Neil. But so just going through a few of the key product USPs. At the end of the day, it's a flame-free installation, and avoids the need for hot work permit and the risk of like fire damage on sites, etc. Yeah, it gives us lower installation costs because it's quick, like 5 seconds to make the joint once you've done the tube prep. It's repeatable, it's predictable, the machine does all the work, yeah? It's simple to install and gives you a sound leak-free joint every time, and it's significantly faster than brazing. It offers higher productivity and flexibility, easier site access. You're not messing around with transporting and storing, you know, flammable brazing gases, that sort of thing. You get professional installation kit, etc. At the end of the day, once you're trained, the first joint you ever do will be as good as the last one because it's that predictable. One of the other really good big benefits about it is we don't need to do a nitrogen purge, which you do to prevent oxide forming inside the pipework while you're brazing. It's a mechanical joint. It doesn't need that, so you don't need to be carting around OFN cylinders, and you know, and also, you know, making sure that your purging is effective, that you've got nitrogen flow, etc. It's a UL listed refrigerant fitting, so it's got a number. That's the UL testing that pertains to refrigerant containing vessels and pipework. Yeah, it's got a design life for 25 years, and it's guaranteed for 10 years if you've done the training. So the applications, it's for air conditioning and refrigeration only. So if anyone that's in mixed disciplines that's pressing any other kind of pipe work, they need to buy the right jaws for that. The machines are quite interchangeable, so that's good. But BMaxley Pro, air conditioning, refrigeration only. It's only to be used for connecting copper to copper, nothing else. And it must be refrigerant grade copper, obviously. We've got this in the size range goes from 1/4 up to 1 5/8. 1/4 up to 1 1/8, the press can be completed on a 19 kilonewton tool. Anything larger, we need to switch to a 32 kilonewton tool. The larger tools will also can press all the way down to 1/4. So we just let people decide which, you know, suits them the best, depending on, you know, what pipe sizes they're working with. The O-ring is really important. HMBR O-ring, hydrogenated nitrile butadiene rubber. It's an extremely tough and durable substance, which is what gives it its compatibility with the hostile environment it works in, the pressures, the temperature ranges, the refrigerant gases, and the oils. Yeah, approved with all refrigerant oils. Everybody's using POE, polyesterol, these days. The maximum pressure is 48 bar, which I've said before, tested to 144 bar, and the system operating temperature has a range of between -40 and plus 121 degrees. So it pretty much covers all applications. You get the odd question about, you know, people are using ultra low temperature cascade systems, that sort of thing. You have to make your own decision about what you know what temperature your pipe work's going to be, and go from there. We talked about it earlier on. Here's a picture of one of these fittings in cross section. Hopefully you can see it there okay. And what we have is a 3-point press. So unfortunately it's not on this slide, but you'll see a picture of a jaw in a minute. Yeah, so you've got a press machine which is driven by a hydraulic piston, and the jaw forms around the fitting. What we do on all our fittings, we give a 3-point press. So we press here and here, either side of the bead that contains the O-ring, and that's what gives you the strength of the joint. You can see there the little hook that I talked about that digs in, you know, which really clamps that on there. The seal is given on the compression of the O-ring, so it all happens in one go. It's all one press, but all you're doing really at the end of the day is ovaling the O-ring, and the O-ring is continually trying to recover. That's what gives you the seal. The O-ring is lubricated with silicone oil, and that's an important part of the seating process. Which is why these fittings are sold and should be stored in resealable bags for 2 reasons. One, you don't want that oil to dry out because it's not going to help with the seating. And 2, because it is lubricated, it's sticky, it's tacky, if you like. So it would pick up particles if it was left in a toolbox or out on site, bits of swarf and grit and that sort of thing, which could get between the O-ring and the pipe and cause a leak path. So that's basically that in cross section. Hopefully that makes sense. So It's compatible with all the refrigerants that are commonly used. So this is because of F-gas regulations, and there's also a need of by the environmental lobby to drive down the global warming emissions from these refrigerants. So in theory, they should never get out into the atmosphere, but they all have a global warming potential. So there's been a move increasingly towards lower and lower global warming potential refrigerants, or low GWP refrigerants, we call them. So common questions I get asked, can I use it on R410A because you operate under slightly higher pressures than other refrigerants? Can I use it on R32, which is a commonly used refrigerant now because it's an A2L refrigerant, so it's slightly flammable? The answer is yes. In regards to future proofing these things, we test new refrigerants as they come out. So, to make sure we can use them. So if you see the things you might be using more of in the future, you've got the hydrocarbon refrigerants here, the R290 and 600A with their very low global warming potentials. They're A3 refrigerants, so they're flammable, but yes, we have tested it for those. And then you've got the HFOs, which are a new generation of low GWP refrigerants as well. So they're all on there. Where you can't use it, carbon dioxide, pressures are far too high. Yeah, we have our own copper iron fitting K65 to go with that, and then you can't use it with ammonia either. You wouldn't be using copper pipe with that anyway. So it's for your standard refrigerant gases. Press tools. So there's some pictures here of the jaws, so you can see how those jaws are designed to fit around the pipe, and then the press tool clamps that around it and gives you the press. The jaws approved in the market are made by Rothenberg and Novapress and REMS, but we have a tool compatibility chart, so a lot of these things are interchangeable. So people that have already got a press tool should look at that first on our website, and and they might find that all they have to buy is the jaws they need and not the whole press tool. So if a company is already using press for other applications, they're often interchangeable with that. The training, I kind of covered this before, but I cannot overemphasize the need for training. Even if you're experienced at this, for want of taking, if someone like myself comes out and visits, we can probably do this in 45 minutes, an hour at the most, depending on the size of the group, or you can do it online. So having done the training, you're entitled to a 10-year extended warranty on the joint. And you get a certificate because that's needed in some cases. There are some sites that require that. But basically, at the end of the day, it just makes sure that people understand how to do it properly, how to store the fittings, and how to prep the tube properly. We will come into that. Next, I'm going to pass over to Tom, who's going to run through a few case studies with us, applications we've used it. Then we'll have a look at the process.
Yeah, so as mentioned in the introduction, BMaxi-Pro has been used all over the world, but what we've picked out is 3 case studies, which kind of shows BMaxi-Pro in different applications, where it's been used in different types of buildings for different reasons. First one here, we have the historical library in Venice. So in total, there was 70 fittings used, and over 150 meters of pipe was actually installed using sizes from 3/8 and 3/8 to 5/8. The reason for this and why BMaxi-Pro was used is because actually within historical buildings, as Mark mentioned earlier, you can't use hot works. So what this did was allowed the installer to go in, install BMaxi-Pro without having to need to close the building, shut off an area of the library. It was clean, it was efficient, and that's why BMaxi-Pro was used. The system is using on average around about 37 bars of pressure. So BMaxi-Pro again was the perfect fitting type for this. Just moving on to the next one. South Africa is where we touch on next for our next case study. This was used on a refrigeration. It was used for refrigeration in a supermarket, and the customer said that using BMaxi Pro fittings saved a significant amount of time, approximately 2/3 of that spent on brazing. And it was extremely efficient, reducing overall time on site. As mentioned, as you can see on the screen, over 150 couplers and elbows were used, using 5/8 and 7/8 fittings. It was installed on the roof, so that obviously it was quick and easy. No need for hot works permit again, and it was looking at around about 20 bar and 110 degrees, using R407 and R404A. So again, another example of why BMaxi Pro is clean, efficient, and sometimes a better option than brazing. And the final case study we move on to is actually one in the UK, in Nuneaton, where it was used to provide air conditioning for a nightclub in Nuneaton. Over 150 couplers and elbows was used, and around about 20 meters of each system, and ran 30. I'll start again. So the fever room extended to 20 meters of pipe, with the main zinc room using 35 meters, including BMaxi Pro fittings as well. It was working at 40 bars, and the installer said that using press instead of brazing or solder make the job easier and major time benefit. And that was coming from the director of Air-Cooled, who actually installed BMaxi Pro. So the main kind of theme and story and of BMaxi Pro is it's time saving, it's efficient, there's no hot works permit, there's no additional consumables on site, it's clean, and it's a massive time and cost saving factor to the installer on a day-to-day basis, able to do more jobs on site and increasing their productivity. So what we'll do now is we'll actually go over an installation process of BMaxi Pro, just so that everyone can see how easy it is, which Mike will kindly narrate. So back to Mike again.
So you would cut the tube with a rotary tube cutter, nothing else, as you normally would. You need to deburr the tube on the outside. You're going to push this through an O-ring, so you need a chamfer on that, and deburr the tube on the inside. Obviously, you don't want to get any burrs inside the tube, point it down on the way. It's important then that you clean it with the abrasive cloths that are supplied within the kit. Don't use sandpaper or emery cloth or anything like that. Inspect the tube for any deep scratches. If there is any, cut the tube back. A deep scratch could lead to a leak path. Select that you've got the right fitting, check that the O-ring is in place. A small amount of lubrication can be added. It's not actually necessary, but if you want to put a bit of lubrication in to help the insertion, then that's fine. You then need to mark the depth. Remember, we've got a 3-point press, so we need to make sure that the tube is fully inserted into the stop and doesn't move in between setting it up and making the press. You could use the fitting if you didn't want to use the gauge and mark with that. It just gives an example of how it should be seated. Using the press tool, you make sure that the bead sits in the middle of the groove in the tool. Press the button. Press takes place. Do it on both sides, obviously. You must press this once and once only. Pressing it twice could lead to deforming the O-ring. This is why you should mark it clearly that you've done it. It's not so much to make sure you haven't missed one. That's a problem, but not a big one. But you definitely don't want to press. Don't want to press twice, and quite often you're working in poor light conditions. So mark it very clearly. And if you follow those instructions, you shouldn't get any problems at all. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, guys. We do love a demonstration and a bit of a video. Always gets it going
Yeah.
with these things there. So thank you for those. I know we're going to thank you, Tom and Ged and Mike again for talking us through some of those projects there. And before we move on to the technical workshop side, we've got some questions we're going to be getting on to straight away on that. I was just going to ask about the case study shown there, and just briefly, I guess, to get an idea of why those projects were chosen, in the sense, does that reflect sort of some of the some of the main uses, or is that more Tom, kind of about demonstrating, I guess, the breadth of applications there? Just interesting because you've obviously picked some quite different, quite interesting projects there with sort of different requirements. So it's just interesting to see what the thinking was there.
Yeah, it was just kind of show the actual diversification of BMaxiPro and how it can be used. Obviously, you've got the National Library in Venice, which is a historical old building. Then you've got the supermarket in South Africa, which is more of a commercial application, so larger sizes. And then the one in Nuneaton, which actually was an actual full installation of air conditioning into the building. So you've got a retrofit in the supermarket. You've got no hot works permit within the library, and a complete full fit out of an air conditioning system within the nightclub in Nuneaton. So yeah, it was just kind of to show the diversification of BMaxiPro and how it can be used for different types.
From Venice to Nuneaton, it's always case leads on those ones there. I'm going to move, and I know we're going to bring back Ged Grimes, Mike back in, and Tom Mason. Obviously, we've still got here for the technical workshop now. First question I thought I'd bring in, just we've got one. Someone in the audience was just asking about options for metric pipe sizes there, based on some of the uses.
So we do have a metric range, which we sell, but we don't usually sell those in the UK. So in other markets in Europe, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some use imperial, some markets use metric, some use both. Yeah. In the UK, we are pretty much almost 100% using imperial, pretty much 100%. If somebody did, for some reason, have an application they needed to put BMaxiPro on metric refrigeration pipe, obviously they would need to first source the pipe, and we would only be able to provide those. We provide those fitted special order, but you're not going to be able to pick them up in the wholesaler, but they are available.
Brilliant. So it's kind of engagement that would be finding a company and then sort of engaging with them would be advice if it's
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Brilliant.
But if you're looking in other markets and abroad or whatever, and the system's using metric pipe there, then the BMaxiPro fittings will be available in metric off the shelf in those countries.
And another question come in there, guys, was someone's asking about the chances to test for cryogenic applications. So in this specific example that they're working in, it's in the biomedical industry, and the temperature range would be minus 80 degrees to, I think, minus 110 degrees.
Yeah. So we're down to minus 40. Yeah. So anything below that, you shouldn't be using BMaxiPro on it. I've worked in cryogenics myself before, and I've been working with liquid nitrogen and that sort of thing, and you certainly wouldn't be able to use it for this. No, it creates all sorts of problems with insulation and all sorts. Yeah.
So that would be an example of
yeah.
Brilliant. And also, I'm sure there'll be people watching this webinar potentially and been using brazing in their work for a significant period of time. So when I know we've had some of this in the case studies, but thinking about sort of flame-free work there, what would be sort of the first consideration? I'm sure I'm on your side about the Conex Bänninger product, but what should they consider when thinking about pipe work? I mean, it's interesting. We've come from that question about on the fire engine, you have something like cryogenics application. So if people are coming to you and they're kind of where to start, I guess, what's a good starting point or a good initial consideration you'd say in terms of thinking about the option and that maybe they could potentially move to using PressFit?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you're going to continue working with brazing, I think you've got to ask yourself if you're giving yourself and your client the most cost effective and time efficient solution at the end of the day, because it's not just about what that means to you, but it's about what it means to your client as well, isn't it? You might be able to get off site more quickly, which is important to you, but it is also important to your client, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that would be the main consideration.
Yeah, I know it's quite a broad one, because I know in some of these cases, as you said, with things such as piping sizes, that there's an element of sort of engagement and going out, I guess, to industry as well, and with training and demonstrating that.
Yeah, exactly.
To make sure it kind of fitting the needs and what the best sort of solutions there. I mean, I was going to ask. I mean, I think we've touched on this a bit in the case studies there, but I was curious about what you'd see as sort of the main factors with regards to determining how best press fit technologies can be used. Are there any, we've talked a bit on, but the issues the sector should be aware of in terms of preparing for going flame free? Does that idea of preparing, is that actually counterintuitive to what you'd argue some of the main benefits of this are, with simplification?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I don't see any issues with converting to press technology. Yeah. The only thing I just cannot overemphasize this, if you're going to go over to it, just make sure that you and your team undertake the training, as a company, just understand, what it's about, where it can be used, how to sell it, so if you're a small contractor, obviously do the training, you're doing everything on, you're doing the fitting, but, for companies, larger companies that are, designing systems, project managers, that sort of thing, do the training yourself, talk to us, have a demonstration. You can best consider, how you use it, how you price it, et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent. I mean, we've got keep on that technical side and keeping on your toes here a bit, Mike. But we've got someone asking, what the percentage of refrigerant leakage would be, over periods. Has that been something that you've been able to look at in terms of sort of comparative modelling, or is there sort of statistic on sort of leakage, comparative?
We don't have any. At the end of the day, the system is designed to be leak free. At the end of the day.
Yeah, you're certainly been in that one there. Building on some of those questions there. I mean, with regards to sizing, I wanted to ask how does that impact the types of solutions or tools with regards to cooling applications? I was wondering if there's also an impact here of what F-gas regulations or potentially changes with PFAS, in terms of, we mentioned sort of future proofing, but how does that impact sort of the sizing and the options you're able to offer in the cooling sector at all? Is there flexibility there, or is there a kind of set number of sizes anyway that would have to be make sure systems compliant?
Yes, so the sizing we have out, is quarter up to 1 5/8. Refrigeration pipe goes larger than that, but it's probably nearly all the fittings we sell are on the smaller end of the range. I would say 1 1/8 downwards. We need the larger sizes to somewhat complete the loop, but it's the smaller sizes that tend to be, on the inside of buildings and in occupied buildings, etc., etc. Once you get over to the 1 5/8 and above, so 1 5/8 is the largest we're going to at the moment. We intend to develop up to 2 1/8. After that, even at 2 1/8, you're in refrigeration applications. You probably don't get so much need for hot works because of the sort of sites these things go on. They're not going to be, as with air conditioning in occupied buildings, in hotels, hospitals, etc., etc. They're going to be in large refrigerated cold rooms, that sort of thing, which tend to be outside. And those pipe sizes are generally used in those sorts of applications. So I think we can see at the moment, we're developing up to 2 1/8 at the moment. We've got 1 5/8 out in the market. So they're the sizes you need to do. Anyone taking it up obviously needs to consider, with purchase of tools, what's the maximum size that they install pipework in it on a regular basis, and then just make the decision around that. Obviously, the smaller tools, the 19 kilonewtons, are lighter. They're easy to use. It's one-handed operation. So if you're not doing above 1 1/8, then stick with that. if you're going to be doing a lot of projects where you're using sizes up to say 1.5 inch, then invest in the larger tool, or have two, depending on the size of your operation.
Question, someone in the audience was just asking, from the technical side there, but the practicalities of removal methods there, and actually, I guess with ongoing servicing and maintenance there, is it, how then do you address that? So I think they're asking, is it sort of cutting off a certain area and refitting, or is there a removal method, particularly I guess when it comes to the sealing and the press fit nature there? What's the consideration? I think
so these press fittings are permanent. So if you need to take a joint out, it needs to be cut out. Yeah. What we'd recommend, so where you would see sort of things on service and maintenance, that sort of thing, then you're looking at things like inline components, dryers, sight glasses, valves, etc. You can buy press compatible valves and fittings on the market, inline components. But again, what they would have, instead of a flare or a braze socket, they would just have a straight piece of pipe that you can press onto. Same applies though. I wouldn't use them. What we do though is we have a flare adapter. So we have a fitting that is a female flare nut on one end with the flare ready made, yeah. And then on the other end of the fitting, it's a press O-ring. So if you do have to do anything where you've got components that you think you might want to take out, what I would suggest is buy the flare fittings. The flare adapters, and then use flared inline components. Flared dryers, flared sight glass, flared solenoid valve, etc. Or shut-off valve, which are all readily available on the market.
That would be,
which is why people use those anyway. In the days of brazing, people will put it, if you're brazing, you might well put in those components as a flare, because they're easy to take on and off. Obviously with brazing, you can melt the braze and take things off, but yeah, with these they are permanent. So that would be a consideration you'd have to think of, yeah, if you're using it in those applications. Most of those come around refrigeration.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting, because I guess that comes into, we were talking earlier about that skill thing anyway, about the skills and the understanding of systems, I guess would be part of that in terms of the solutions you use.
Yeah.
Changes.
Now they're all things you've got to think of. Like you were saying, this isn't designed to be used by unskilled people. This, to work on these systems, to install them, to maintain them, you need a certain level of skill, education, experience, and that's the type of people that we want to take up this, if you know what I mean. It's not designed as a DIY option, if you like, at all.
And that's kind of the response. I know we talked on the skilling issue there earlier, and some of those considerations. And to bring it back there, just because it wouldn't be an RAC event without bringing up F-gas and PFAS and regulatory compliance there. I know it's already, there's a lot, particularly with PFAS, that uncertainty at the minute, and kind of how perhaps nerves about how you future-proof or get systems ready. Are there any considerations going forward, or now in that, or does, as you said, does that come into the training and some of the skills that are already there that you'd be wearing? I was wondering what the impacts might be as people who are already considering the wider shifts in the industry. Now we talked about refrigerant as well, so I was just trying to get a view of the regulatory elephant in the room, as such as it were, about how is that considered? What does that sort of mean with this debate about when you perhaps might go flame free or using that?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the idea of BMAXI Pro fitting, it's designed to be leak tight up to 48 bar, yeah. And as with anything, they're as good as you make them, aren't you? If you train properly, it's the same with brazing. Brazing is not leak free by any stretch of the imagination. And feedback I get from the field is that on leak test, tightness test, pressure test, whatever you like to call it, that there is less failures at that point on BMAXI Pro. In other words, it's virtually 100%, yeah, than there is when people, when installers braze, because they find leaks. I mean, that's why you test before you put refrigerant in at the end of the day. You know, there's not any concerns there. So as long as the installer puts the fit in according to the instructions and the training, and tests to the regulations in their market, the F-gas, PFAS, whatever you like, then you should be fine. At the end of the day, it's a mechanical joint. You could equally put that in as a if you put that in as a flare fitting, which and that can be notoriously troublesome if not done properly, you would still test to exactly the same regulations, and as long as you don't get that, as long as you don't get a leak, then you're fine. You're covered. Just another mechanical joint. It is simple at the end of the day.
I know it's so all-encompassing. I follow we always ask on our webinars. It's so all-encompassing anyway that it's those. I mean, it's partly why we've got you in. Really, I guess the technical considerations of these things, though. To say, oh, well, it wouldn't. What does that mean? And funny enough, on the issue of training, actually, someone's just messaged in about they themselves had done training in October 2017.
Yeah.
On using the systems. I think they were asking about. Is it worthwhile? Is there a sense of a need for retraining or a set years you'd recommend? I don't know if that's tied to the warranties there.
I think you leave that down to yourself and common sense at the end of the day. The idea of the training is to make sure that you that you know how to store, prepare the tube, etc. properly. There have been a few cases where I've been asked by companies to do refresher training with their staff. That would be because it's their own company policy, so they've said, oh, we trained our people 5 years ago, can you come and redo it, to make sure they're still online. It wouldn't do any harm if you feel yourself, oh, I've not looked at that for a number of years, have I gone off course a little bit, whatever. The training is available online. Go onto our website, click on the link, redo it. If there's anything we add in there, if we change anything or talk about new fittings in the range and everything, it'll all be on the training. So that that's what I would say. But if you're it's like with all things, isn't it? Some people want to train on something and never revisit that for the rest of their life because they can always remember it, and other people like to refresh and update. So it's all there if you want to at the end of the day.
I think one of the things to consider, if their business has changed from what they were doing in 2017 to what they're doing now, it's definitely worth considering. Obviously, if it was a small part of their business then, and now it's a bigger part of their business now, like Mike says, refresher does nobody any harm at all. And because we have the facility online, these guys can revisit at any time and then follow up with a phone call to ourselves and also a visit if we need to.
One of the other things I would say as well, although we do have that online training, so if you get new people coming into the company that haven't done it, I mean, it's very easy, isn't it, to sort of for the people that are there already to show them themselves, which is fine in essence. But if that goes on and on down the line, you get a bit of that. I would just say if you've got if you're working for a company, you've got new employees, just refer them to the online training. Or if you think that they would rather have that in person, and a lot of people do that, just contact us and we'll send somebody out and do the training. Quite often it's me that does it.
Well, people will be hopefully be familiar after the webinar on that anyway. I mean, I was going to ask, I don't know if we put it in the slide, this will be my prep and planning on these things, but I don't know if there's an email, Tom or Ged or Mike, if there's any follow-ups people might have, we can perhaps put in the chat in a bit, maybe if there's anything. Seems training is an interesting issue about sort of so I don't know if there's an email we can perhaps put together.
We've got two emails. We've got two emails. I'll put them both in the chat.
If you can, we'll put that in the chat section, Tom, and then that just in people have got any of those.
One specifically for training requests, and one specifically for kind of any general questions at the end of the webinar. If you need any more information.
Fabulous. That's always useful. Thank you for that one, Tom. I mean, I'll push on because we have got a question there. Someone was asking actually. I think builds on training a little bit. We're carrying out, it's an organisation thinking about if they were to carry out a small trial site, the test of this, as a company, you know, is it possible to hire out or provide the press kit, tooling, sort of equipment needed in that first instance?
So that's not a problem. I obviously we can assist with that. So if somebody wants to have a trial, we could visit them on site, if they've got a few, I've done this before. So people have come in and they say, right, we're going to put 2 fittings on that unit, and then we'll see. We'll come back in a year's time or whatever, or test it for a period of time. Then we could come down, do the training. You can make the fittings at the same time using my tool and or whoever's and go from there. I know some of the wholesalers have done the same, so they've they've lent somebody a tool and they've made the fittings with it to see how they get on for the first time. Obviously, you would have to agree that if you're going to go down that route with the supplier you're using. I can't really talk for other people, but it's all not an issue.
But in that sense, I mean, and obviously this is, we've got you sponsoring that sense, but I guess it's about, as well, as you said, people reaching out, go to suppliers, as in that sense. It's, we're talking here about a solution intended to simplify, but as you said, training, just making sure that you're, I guess, speaking to them, working with them, to get the best solution that works for you. Is
exactly. Neil, if somebody shows a genuine interest, we're more than willing to go to site, go meet them. Let them obviously carry out the training, because the training is vitally important. And we keep talking about training, and it is important because it is an upskill and it's not a de-skill in the industry, definitely. And then by all means, then we can obviously they can use the tooling. We can then also put them in touch, obviously, with the tooling manufacturers as well. We can put them in touch with the merchants and guide them, obviously. But for me, don't be frightened. Get in touch. Get in touch. Get trained, and we'll be there to support you all the way. That's the key message today.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and that's nothing we're doing special. We're doing that already on a daily, weekly basis. That's the service we offer. Go on our website. Just type in Conex Bänninger. You'll see a list of contacts. If it's for AC and refrigeration products, my telephone number and email address is there. Just contact me directly.
Brilliant. So that's easy enough.
Not a problem at all.
And we'll make sure, so we'll put some of those in, as Tom mentioned, in the chats on that one there. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, to keep the questions coming in and keeping them on their toes. It's why we've got them here anyway for this. A fairly straightforward one, just to ask about wholesaler support for this product. I know we're talking about Maxi Pro and cooling in particular. I don't know, Mike, if that's one for yourself or Ged or Tom, but someone's just asking about what wholesaler support there is for the products there at the moment.
Are you talking about price support?
I'd have to ask him. But I think what they're I don't know if in terms of, it's maybe I'm assuming, and I hope I've got this wrong, that they're, feel free to respond, but it would about support in terms of carrying, I think, numbers, in terms of their
stocks
carrying.
So with our wholesale partners,
there is price and stock. Sorry, Mike, as well.
Price and stock. So at the end of the day, we supply the market. So we're a manufacturer. This gets supplied into the market. It's sold to the users through wholesale. Obviously we try and put this in the market as competitively as possible. But at the end of the day, you need to, whatever deal you strike with your wholesaler for your pricing. That's where you go to. As with any manufacturer, we do our best to keep costs down. But the markets as they are. Production costs, raw material costs, not just with our product, with everything, they only go one way, don't they? But at the end of the day, this is this is not something we can produce cheaply. It's a precision engineered solution, to pipe jointing, and that is our primary concern, is that it works and it's valuable and it's leak tight. Quality is what it's all about at the end of the day. There are some huge cost efficiencies with time saving, etc. Yeah.
I think Neil, the key thing to that obviously is about the installer's relationship. But one thing we've done, that the product is available nationally. So if he has a relationship with obviously an AC supplier, he's got a choice there. He can obviously look at on our website. We can talk about obviously where we supply these fittings to, so then he can make the choice himself, and then he can go in and can negotiate on his own behalf, really. But what it is, it's not just available by one or two. It's available nationally through a merchant network, which specialises in this product. So ideally, he'll have a relationship. He'll already have an account out there, and then what he can do, he can test the water then by speaking to one or two of them in the market and make sure he's getting the best price.
Yeah, a question that I guess get asked often is people say, I'm thinking of taking this up. Where can I buy it from? And I just say, who's your supplier for refrigeration and air conditioning installation materials? And there's a whole load of them. You know them all because they all do bits for your publication as well. And in every case, I just confirm yes, because they all stock them. We've got good stocks all over the country.
I mean, I think building on that, someone's asking about availability and support outside of the UK, so for Europe and the US as well. Well, we've got you there.
So we do sell these globally. Is there a particular country they're interested in?
I will wait and see. I know they've been putting a few questions kindly in. So if there's a specific market, we'll go on to another question. But if there's any markets.
So just on that then, Neil, just if they get a specific market, or what they can do, they can contact us, and then in the likes of America or Australia, they will be my equivalent. There'll be a business unit director who obviously reports into the meetings we do. I can pass on the contact details, and they can get in touch, and they'll get exactly the same services they get in the UK. So.
So it's about sort of reaching out. I'll keep an eye out, Ged, on that anyway. But
obviously, us three sitting here, we largely we work in the UK, but we do sell this product globally, so we could advise. If you go onto our website, we have a button to click on for each country as well. So you could contact the representatives directly through that as well if you wanted to.
So Conex, they'll find
make an inquiry in the market you're into,
Brilliant, on the Conex Bänninger website there.
Yeah.
So on a more technical level, someone's asking about obviously there's circular presses have been used by some suppliers. They're asking about that it seems for Conex Bänninger you're using a hex press there.
Yeah.
Someone wanted to ask kind of what the advantages is design side from why you've used that specific hex press there.
So if you look at the press, so the business part of it, obviously the O-ring, that's circular, so it hits on every point and makes that. The hex press, that's just giving you the strength of the joint there. The major advantage with the hex press, you can't twist it. So it's more, so you've got 6 flats on there, stronger. It's nothing to do with the seal. Anything away from the O-ring is just the strength of the joint.
Really definitive answer. That's what we always like. Thanks, Mike, on that weather. I mean, I guess one of the questions I wanted to put in for people there, but it's obviously when we're supplying sort of equipment and solutions to cooling specialists there, I think tying into the case study, I was wondering what had been perhaps some of the more challenging projects or adjustments that you may have to make to industry demands. Is it in that sense the level of support you're working? I mean, I know really this is about kind of a uniform, as you said, a precision uniform approach there, but I was wondering about, it's going back a bit to, I think, to what this can mean for copper systems and cooling there. How do you, what have been sort of the challenging projects there, or how are you able to adjust at all to perhaps some of the more challenging products you've had with regards to when we're using these systems for cooling?
So adjustments, if you like. In essence, there's hardly anything different. So for the major part of the installation, everything's the same. Apart from you're investing in the press technology. So first of all, the first adjustment is to get your team trained. That's number one. So that's just a given. You've then got to purchase or hire a tool. And then sometimes it might be that you've got to convince. We do get questions on projects from the clients, end users, and from consultants. So they're more interested in things like some of the things like UL certificates and complying with different testing and that sort of thing. And usually it's as simple as us providing them with a copy of the technical manual, or answering questions out of it. So when I get a question about it, so you'll get a question that's come. It's usually not from the contractor at that point, but it would be from the client or consultant, and it would be something about guarantees, compatibility, copy of a certificate, that sort of thing. And usually I will just provide that along with a copy of the technical brochure, which will answer any other questions that they've got. The technical brochure actually has a frequently asked questions section in the back, which is very useful. In that it covers most of the common things, because at the end of the day, people are only concerned about will it hold or will it hold or will it leak? That it's quite a simple product, really.
But yeah, as you said,
So in essence, everything's the same. You put the pipe in, you press it rather than braze it or flare it. You put the lagging over it. The lagging slides nicely over the fitting. It's got a very low profile. So there's not really anything you really need to do to make an adjustment on the project.
Brilliant. I mean, I think we're still open to questions, and thank you for everyone who's been putting those forward. I'm going to probably, if I can, I was going to go through the panel as a whole. Just it's an easy sum up, particularly when I'm writing things together. It's always nice to kind of get a summary if we can on these things. But if I could go through each of you as a panel there, I mean, I wanted to ask just with as sort of finishing notes and some of the closing views on this. Wondering how as a business, would you look to respond to organisations that are on one side skeptical or perhaps unsure about the applications, or as you said, there's a growing awareness of this. What would be the how do you as a business sort of do you respond to that and kind of about bringing
So I think the key message today has been about we're a very approachable business. We're very proud of what we've done, obviously, with the innovation we've created with the fitting. Just get in touch with us. At the end of the day, if you've got any questions or any queries, or you've got a project that's coming up, by all means, get in contact with us. We'll come out to site. We'll carry out the training. We'll talk to you about your project. We'll make sure it's the right application for your project, which is key with any obviously project you take on. But for me, really, it's just about get in touch. We're very, very approachable as a business there. Like you say, just pick the phone up, send us an email. We'll come out to site, and then we'll willingly talk to you, obviously on an engineering level for the technical expertise we have. And then between us, we'll sort out the solution. So it's very, very approachable as a business. And I think that's the key message today. If you're willing to invest some time with us and you've got a genuine opportunity, we'll come out to site and we'll talk you through it, and then we'll answer all the questions. We'll even let you carry out a few tests. We'll help you carry out them tests as well in the early stages. We'll talk to you about the training, which is key. And then hopefully we'll come out the other end and it'll be a positive solution for both of us.
You're also anybody that's that's interested or is having difficulty making a decision. You're welcome here as well. Our head office is in Kings Winford in the West Midlands. We've got our product development labs here. We've got a training centre. So if you've got a big group, if you're a company that's where your team is all over the country and you want some centralised training, we've got a training room here. We can do it all there. You can have a look in our product development labs, talk to some of our guys that work, some of the engineers that work in on that, about the testing and all that sort of thing. More than happy to have visitors here.
Brilliant. So reaching out is the thing there if you're looking at sort of projects or applications that you think might be suitable for that one there. Fabulous. I think that's the main set of questions we've had on that one. Will be obviously we'll be having some coverage both of the event, and there'll be a live video of the webinar as well that will be available for people to watch. And so we'll be putting out additional sort of contact details. I know Tom's going to be able to provide to me. So on racplus.com, you'll be able to find that out. Obviously, with as they said, the guys there's the Conex Bänninger site, which will be able to offer additional support, you know, for queries, whether they're sort of UK specific or elsewhere as well. I mean, I wanted to thank mainly our panel today for the time, and thank you for going through those questions there. I know we've got that's Mike Lucken, the ACR sales manager for Conex Bänninger, Ged Grimes, UK and Ireland Business Unit Director, and Tom Mason, who's the company's marketing manager for UK and Ireland as well. It's been really given us, I think, a lot to go on, and hopefully a quite a useful one for our audience there to get what they might need to be doing to start on flame-free work there. As I said, we'll be having the details online with the next 24 hours. There'll also be some coverage coming up in RAC Magazine as well. So please do keep in touch. We'll be looking at some of these points and following up as well. But otherwise, just thank you all for your questions and joining us, and thank you to the panel as well today for all their help. I hope you'll be joining us again for another RAC Magazine live webinar. So thank you, gents, and thank everyone for their time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Neil.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Neil.
Bye.